Okay, now we've reached a step where we want to use the laser level to help us find a point where we want to start. So what I want to do, Evan, if you can come over here and show them this. I'm going to start right here, and I want my base to be level right here. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to do is I want to get this base level here, have it run level all the way across, and then up in towards the house we're going to have these sandstones, which are off to the right over here. We're going to be using those in a little while, and we're going to have a sandstone walkway path that comes down to this. So what you do is you set your level up over here, you turn it on, you make sure it's level. It's got two little adjustments where you can level it. Then you come back over to here to our starting point, turn the unit on, you come down and find your spot. So when you hear that constantly beep, I'm up here by the way, when you hear that constantly beeping, that tells you that that's on the level. So that's going to be my mark, and I'm going to make that mark. We just take a pencil and we make a mark on the bottom of this, and then I'll take this laser and I'll go around to every one of these and I'll make a mark on it where we have to be. So like now, if you listen to the laser, if you can hear it, right there's where we're going to have to be in order to have this level. So we're going to have to bring up the base material that far. All right, so same thing over here. That's how far off that is. So anyway, that gives you an idea. And then what we're going to do, as soon as I do that, so I'm going to come with my string line, and I'm going to tie this on right at my level spot, right where I want to be. And then I'm going to run this thing back and forth. It'll look like a spider web here with my string line, and I'm going to match it up to every line that I drew on this, because I know where that line is, that's where the base has to be. All right, so once I go back and forth, then I can see where the low spots are, where it's high, where I have to take some out, and that's how it'll help us to get our level. All right. Okay, so now that we have our strings in place, and we have gotten our base in and we had it leveled, and if you remember when I showed you, I used the laser level to make my marks on all of the stakes. What we did after that is we adjusted our string line and ran it back and forth so I can see any low spots or any high spots that are out there. And now that we've got that done and I've leveled it, I know she's level, so I'm going to pull all the strings, and then we're going to get to putting some bricks down. Okay, now what we did now is we determined where center was, where we're going to put our fire ring. And I did that by driving 4 stakes across from each other. You can see these. And then I ran a string line from all 4 of these, and where it crossed in the middle, that's where center is. So now we place our ring inside the center area, and then I'm measured out the distance in here. I wanted to get a rock layer in behind this, because if you don't put rocks in behind here, what will happen is the heat from the fire will actually break the brick. Okay, it'll make it really brittle and they'll break and crumble. So you want to have a little gap in here, about a 3-inch gap. All right, so I measured out. This is my line. That's where I want to follow with my brick. And now I'm going to start laying brick. Okay, everybody, now on to the next step. Now we've got our brick, and we've got them all lined up around our ring, and we measured it out, so it's great we didn't have to cut any other brick. So if you try to put these bricks in and they don't fit, you either need to bring each one out a little bit or take them in a little bit, and just go like a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch at a time until you actually get them to fit, so that you're not forced to cut a brick in half. If we started, let's say we started on this one down here, and we don't want to end up going around the circle like this and then come back around to this one, and then we have to cut one in half here to make it fit. So instead, just move the bricks in and out until you can get them all in there without having to cut one, okay? Then you can always readjust your ring the least bit one way or the other to give you the same gap in this area, okay, for your rock. Now the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to take a level like this, just your standard level. We're going to level each and every brick, and you can use a rubber mallet to do that. That works best so that you're not breaking any of the brick. You know, you obviously don't want to use a steel hammer on something like that. So now I'm going to level all these brick, and then we can proceed to the caps. Alright, now that we've gotten all our brick leveled and I've started to set the caps around the top, what we do have to do before we do that is to fill the inside of these blocks with rock. Okay, so you want to do that. It helps stabilize them, adds weight and support to the brick. So once we do that, we'll level them off, and then we'll start putting our caps on. Okay, now we've gotten our rock. We put it in on all of our brick, leveled it off nice, filled in all the joints, all the gaps. One little trick to tell you is to leave them down just a little bit. Down in here, don't fill them completely level. That way when you go to sweep off your rock, it gives you a spot where you can put them. Now we're going to start placing our caps back on, and we're going to try and create the same gaps in between these, and then in the end what we're going to do is cut pie shapes to go into this. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to laying brick, and we'll see what happens in a little while. Alright, now that we have cut our brick out, what I did is we use a wet saw, so that's why you can see some of the brick are still wet. What we're going to do is just I leave them sit up like this and then let them air dry, and once they're dry then we're going to glue them in place. And now we are going to prepare our brick to go around the bottom and start laying our paver base. Okay, well, what we started to do then is lay our brick, and we always start up here by the corner, and again I'm just leaving our caps dry on top, and we'll glue them in a little while. But you just start on the inside row and then just keep working your way out. Alright, and just keep a slight bend and try to keep the outside relatively in a circular shape, and in the end I think your patio will come out looking just fine. Okay, now that we've got our circular brick laid, now we're going to turn the end brick around to give it a dynamic look to it, to give it a really nice edged, finished edge look. We're going to run that up all the way on the sides, and we're going to use that to connect to our path that's going to go up to the house. Okay, now that we've got all our caps cut and we've got them all fit into place, we know they're all level, we tapped them down, made sure everything is right. What we're going to do now is we're going to glue them in place, and what we use is this adhesive glue for concrete, and I'll just show you real quick how to do one or two here and you'll get the idea. It's pretty simple, pretty basic. Make sure your bricks are dry. If you're using a wet saw, make sure you stand them up, let them dry like I did before. Now that they're all dry, I put them back in place, make sure they're leveled nice. Now I'm just going to stand them up, drop some glue on them, set them back into place. Okay, one thing I want to tell you, when you are putting the glue down, don't put the glue all the way out to the outside edge, because when you squish that brick down, that glue is going to come squirting right out of there. Then it's going to be all over your brick and it'll be a mess. So that's how we take care of the fire pit, and we'll move on to the next project. So we're just putting finishing touches on this fire pit, and all you do, what I try to do with these, I try to get the ring level with the top of the brick. So if you find that it's down a little too low or it's up a little high, it's easy to fix. So let's say, for instance, that it's up too high. Lay a 2x4 across this thing, take a sledgehammer and just keep tapping it down all the way around it, a little bit at a time, and the ring itself will actually cut into the ground or into your base, and you can level it that way. The other way is, if it needs to come up, is you just, where you have this filled with rock on the outside, you just grab the edges of this and just shimmy it up, and just go around each side until it's level with the top. The reason for the rock around this pit is because if the fire's in there, it gets really hot, it can actually burn your brick and break them and split them. So we have a little buffer here of rock, just a little 4-inch buffer of rock around here, and helps tremendously. So that's that. This baby's done. We're going to move on to that. Okay, you guys, I wanted to show you now one thing I wasn't able to do the other day. I had a rainstorm coming, yada, yada, yada. I had to hurry and get this done. But I wanted to get this treated joint sand in these joints, okay? What it is, it's a polymeric sand, and you dump it out on top of your pavers, sweep it into all the joints, and after you get it into the joints, what I like to do is I take a compactor over this. Now, even though I've compacted this base 100 million times, and we screened it all off, and we made it nice and level, still when you put those pavers down, there are a little bit of irregularities in them. So you still want to take that compactor and go right over the top of this. Don't worry about breaking the brick. If you get a good quality brick, you won't have to worry about that. If you buy cheap brick, like from some of the big box stores, then you got to worry about running a compactor over the top of it, because it's cheap brick and it'll break. But this is very nice brick. We get it from County Materials. But what you do is you fill in the joints with sand. Then after you do that, you take and water this gently, and very gently. Just sprinkle it on, wait 20 minutes, come back, do it again, wait another 20 minutes, do it a third time, and leave this sit overnight. And you come back in the morning, and this is just hard as a rock in here. Okay, so that's good. It turns it into like a mortar almost, a little softer than a mortar, but it's really nice. But it helps hold everything tight from shifting. And also, anytime when you put sand down in these pavers, the ants will come almost immediately, and they'll just start pulling that stuff out constantly. I don't know why they do it, whatever. You have little ant mounds everywhere on this thing, so that polymeric sand helps that. The other thing I wasn't able to show you, just again, due to the storm coming in, I really had to move, but what we do is we put this edging, okay? Now this edging is just Pavemaster edging, and it's flexible, okay? So it moves. I can bend it around things, okay? So you take that edging, an example, if you wanted to close this off, you just keep running. It's got holes. It's got these little holes. I don't know if you can see them in here, but where you can run these spikes through them, okay? And you just nail it, just every like 6 inches. Just put a spike in it. And that helps hold these all up tight into place after you're done, so they don't move on you. So now that we're done with that, we're done with our patio up here. Now we're going to take and we're going to start putting in a little pathway going up to the deck here on the house, okay? And so that's going to be our next step. We had carved it out already, and we got rid of all the topsoil, and then we put our base in here. It's going to be the same concept. The only thing is we're going to use some sandstone rocks that are very decorative, look pretty. So we'll get to that in a few minutes.